As there is birth, there is also death. As there is happiness, there is also sorrow. You have only to look around you, read your daily papers to realize that we cannot, any of us, live with life alone. There are times when we must face the loss of a loved one. Illness, accidents, tragedy, death exist side by side with the wonderful experience of living, love, marriage, family, birth. These are all a part of the great pattern, woven and interwoven, until we see the colorful tapestry of life itself, with its life and shadows, its beginning and its end. And today in our news, we have seen the end as former President Jimmy Carter's state funeral and local Georgia funeral were conducted today. And this was a man whose initials were JC. And as we discovered, he lived that life just like that man. He lived a life just like that man, just like Jesus. He was a man who devoted himself to helping others. Even as president, one of the big things that his pastor said, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute, was, how can I help you help them, or to help them? You know, and it was along those lines. And those words still ring today. I might get a spider in a second. Nope. Oh, thank goodness. All right. There you go. And this was the man when he first came into the White House. He had a job. And that job was post-Nixon and post-Ford. That mission he had was to restore decency, which was something he did. He was ahead of his time. He put solar panels on the White House. It was like he almost knew something was coming, climate-wise. And he needed to be at the forefront of this. Almost like he knew what was happening. And he did it. You know, and it was something that was an amazing feat to have that installed in the White House. Wow, what an amazing moment when the White House could state, we are energy independent for the most part, because I mean, you still have the night and all that. But what an amazing feat to be able to say that. Is that, you know? And yeah, maybe it was just, you know, X percent, like 85%. But still, that was 85%. Holy cow, right? But it was his time afterward. It was his time after the White House where he really shone. He was known as the last president not to make a profit from the presidency. Wasn't that amazing? That there are still people like that. And boy, howdy, did he ever live the life of Jesus. Because, holy cow, he just did it. I mean, he did it. He lived the life that Christians should be living. And in so doing, you still ask that question, how can I help you to help them? Okay, how can I help you to help them? was the Habitat for Humanity guy. He was the spokespresident, basically. Right up until he went into hospice care, he was still working with them. What an amazing man. And he went at 100 years of age. You know, that initial statement I made was written, based in part off of a written message from Erna Phillips, you know, the mother of all drama, of all scripted televised drama or radio drama or anything like that, okay? She was the mother of that. And Jimmy Carter was somebody who would have known of her. He may or may not have known her, but he would certainly know of her. You know, wow, right? Just absolutely, utterly wow. And he was a man with whom decency and living the life of a holy man it just fit him. He brought peace to the Middle East, something presidents almost have to get on their knees and grovel for. And Jimmy Carter did it. Right? He was the man. The man. And that peace between Egypt and Israel that he helped to broker and he helped create, it still exists today. Because he made sure, and I don't know how he would have made sure, but it was like the man made sure that that was going to continue in perpetuity. And it did. Absolutely did, didn't it? Because Egypt and Israel today are still okay with each other. Is that not amazing? And right up until he entered hospice care, right up until that point he managed. As soon as this wolfie goes, I can get to him. Sorry, wolfie came here. Got him. And, you know, I could only imagine what that was like. It was like he spent 23 months in hospice care. I mean, this was a long haul. 23 months. Give me just a second for another wolfie. He's coming here again. It got me in trouble last time I tried these wolves. Was one came toward me and I wound up getting about 2 other ones. I became a ghost very fast. Yeah, the man spent 23 months in hospice care. And, you know, I'm not a religious man, but I could imagine it. I mean, there's no way to know what went on in those final days mentally or spiritually. We know physically because we just know. You know, we literally we know physically because he was in hospice for that long of a time. But I can imagine spiritually what went on those last few, those last few days, those last few hours. because the man was such a great, honorable man that, oh, poop, that I can imagine what he was like. You know, I can imagine this, what this was like in the final days, where God himself would come down and meet with Jimmy Carter's spirit. Oh, how interesting, right? And he would say, you know, God himself would look and say, Jimmy, I understand that you share initials with my child, right? And he absolutely did. And his initials were JC. And he lived a life that Christians around the world should aspire to be. A man who did nothing but selflessly help and gave his all to make sure somebody in the universe would have a slightly better life. Just slightly better. And yeah, he asked that question over and over again. How can I help you to help them? And during his last moments, when I believe maybe God himself came down and saw Jimmy Carter, and he said, well, Jimmy, and again, this is my imagination running wild, so, you know, indulge me a second here. But I can see it. Which means it's entirely possible, right? He said, now, Jimmy, your home is having problems, is going to have problems. Your home, that bright, shining beacon that you call home, that bright, shining beacon is having problems, okay? Whoa, boy, howdy. And boy, howdy, he would have it, okay? And Jimmy would, of course, look at God and understand that, okay, what you're telling me here is the place where I live, the place where I call home, needs help. Needs help. I get you, God. I get you. So how can I help you to help them? And God said, Jimmy, there's only one way, and I am so sorry. And he would have said it that way too. And I am so sorry. Right? I could see it. Couldn't you? But there's only one way that you're going to be able to help. And it would be to have them remember you. Of course, he would probably ask, just like anybody else, that, you know, what on earth do you mean? It's like, well, I think you know what I mean, would be that reply. Again, you know what you know what we have to do. And it will help me, and it will help me help them by remembering. And that was the end. And I can completely, utterly imagine this big spiritual talk happening between them, you know? And an amazing human being, a pure and utter gift to humanity itself, sadly passed because we needed that of a time of decency and a time of humanity. And by God, that was the life of Jimmy Carter. A life of duty, a life of humanity, a life loving humanity. So as we finish our memories here, you know, of the Habitat for Humanity guy, most of you all probably remember him as that. He's the Habitat for Humanity guy. Right up until he went to hospice, right? Right up until that point. So as we warp out, I wanted to leave you with this, okay? Again, it's from Guiding Light, okay? I'm just going to tell you where it's from. I remember, and, you know, I'm just going to read verbatim here, I'm sorry. I remember the things he did, the things that he loved, feel his love and his understanding around me always. Nothing will ever change that. He isn't gone, really. The grief that we feel over the death of a loved one is deeper than most of the sorrows that come to us. And it is difficult to try to reconcile ourselves to the loss that has left such an empty place in our lives. To those who today are mourning the loss of a loved one, may these words enter into their hearts and bring them peace in the thought that there is no death. Only the body dies. The spirit remains with us always. There is a destiny that makes us brothers. None goes this way alone. All that we send into the lives of others comes back into our own. For today's news in Warcraft, this is Ainann with Rory, the bear cub cat, remembering Jimmy Carter. And I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, whichever time you're in now, and great, wonderful gaming. Good night, everyone.